Welcome to 10-Minute Topics, where we dive deep into fascinating ideas, stories, and how-tos, all in just 10 minutes. Whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or simply pass the time, we're thrilled to have you with us. If you're new here, welcome to the community. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Now, sit back, relax, and let's jump into today's topic. Today is December 12th, 2024, and this is episode 3. We are talking about term limits on this episode. So let us begin. Ladies and gentlemen, today we delve into an important and often debated topic in American politics: term limits for Congress. To truly understand this issue, we must travel back in time to the founding of our nation, examining the intentions of the founding fathers, and then contrast it with how Congress operates today. The Founding Fathers crafted the Constitution during a pivotal time in history. They were deeply concerned about creating a government that balanced power and avoided tyranny. Term limits, however, were not explicitly included in the Constitution. Why? The founders envisioned a system where the people's representatives would be citizen legislators, ordinary individuals who would serve for a period, then return to their private lives. This idea was rooted in their experience with monarchical rule and their desire to prevent the emergence of a political elite. The Articles of Confederation, which predated the Constitution, did include term limits. Delegates to Congress under this system were limited to 3 out of 6 years. However, when the Constitution was drafted, term limits were omitted. The founders debated this issue, but many, including Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, believed that elections themselves were the ultimate safeguard. Madison argued in Federalist No. 53 that frequent elections would keep representatives accountable, as they would need to continually earn the trust of their constituents. Yet, not all founders agreed. Thomas Jefferson, while not present at the Constitutional Convention, was a proponent of term limits. He feared that without them, members of Congress might become entrenched in power, losing touch with the people they were meant to serve. In the early years of the Republic, the founders' vision largely held true. Serving in Congress was not a lifelong career. The lack of modern conveniences, such as rapid transportation and communication, made serving in Washington, D.C., arduous. Many representatives chose to serve for a few terms and then step down. This natural turnover kept fresh perspectives flowing into the legislative process. Fast forward to today, and the picture looks quite different. Modern transportation, technology, and substantial congressional salaries have made long-term service in Congress not only feasible but desirable. Many members serve for decades, gaining significant power and influence over time. For example, John Dingell, the longest-serving member of Congress in U.S. history, spent over 59 years in the House of Representatives. While such longevity can bring experience and institutional knowledge, it also raises concerns about a lack of new voices and ideas. Public opinion on term limits is consistently strong. Polling data shows that a majority of Americans support imposing term limits on Congress. According to a 2023 Gallup poll, over 75% of respondents favored term limits for members of the House and Senate. This support spans across political affiliations, with Republicans, Democrats, and Independents all expressing high levels of approval. The reasons cited by the public align closely with the arguments made by proponents of term limits. Many Americans believe that term limits would reduce corruption, curb the influence of special interests, and encourage fresh ideas in Washington. Additionally, the perception that Congress is out of touch with ordinary citizens fuels calls for reform. While voters technically have the power to impose term limits through elections, the advantages of incumbency often make it difficult to unseat long-serving members, leading many to see term limits as a necessary corrective. One of the most glaring issues in modern American politics is the outsized influence of lobbyists and megadonors. These powerful entities often shape policy decisions in ways that benefit their interests, sidelining the voices of ordinary citizens. Lobbyists, representing corporations, industries, and other wealthy organizations, have unparalleled access to lawmakers. They spend billions annually to influence legislation, often drafting bills themselves or providing significant campaign contributions to ensure their priorities are addressed. Similarly, megadonors play a critical role in funding political campaigns. With the cost of running for office skyrocketing, candidates often rely on wealthy donors to finance their campaigns. This reliance creates a dynamic where politicians are more beholden to their financial backers than to the constituents they are elected to serve. This imbalance manifests in how accessible elected officials are to the public. For everyday citizens, securing a meeting with a member of Congress can be nearly impossible. Constituents may face long wait times, bureaucratic hurdles, or outright rejection when attempting to voice their concerns. In contrast, celebrities, corporate executives, and the ultra-wealthy often have direct lines of communication to lawmakers. They attend exclusive fundraisers, private events, and closed-door meetings where they can influence policy without public scrutiny. The result is a system where ordinary Americans feel disconnected from their government. Issues that matter most to the public, such as healthcare, education, and economic inequality, are often overshadowed by the priorities of well-funded special interests. This perception of inequality further fuels frustration and cynicism about the political process, underscoring the need for reforms like term limits to restore balance and accountability. Advocates for term limits argue that they would 1. Reduce corruption. Long tenures in Congress can lead to entrenched relationships with lobbyists and special interest groups. Term limits could minimize this influence by ensuring regular turnover. 2. Promote fresh ideas. New members bring new perspectives and innovative solutions to legislative challenges. 3. Enhance accountability. Knowing their time in office is limited, legislators might focus more on serving their constituents than securing re-election. 4. Curb career politicians. Term limits align with the founders' vision of citizen legislators rather than lifelong politicians. On the other hand, critics caution that term limits could 1. Eliminate experience. Legislating is complex, and experienced members often navigate it more effectively. Constant turnover could lead to a less knowledgeable Congress. 2. Shift power elsewhere. With frequent turnover, unelected staffers, lobbyists, and bureaucrats might gain undue influence over inexperienced legislators. 3. Undermine democracy. Voters already have the power to impose term limits through elections. If a candidate continues to win, it suggests their constituents approve of their service. 4. Disrupt continuity. Long-term projects and bipartisan efforts may suffer if key legislators are forced out before they can see initiatives through. At the state level, 15 states currently have term limits for their legislatures. These experiments offer valuable insights. While term limits have successfully increased turnover and introduced new faces, they've also led to unintended consequences, such as empowering lobbyists and reducing institutional memory. Despite the ongoing debate, term limits for Congress remain elusive. Proposals for constitutional amendments to impose term limits have been introduced repeatedly but have failed to gain the necessary support. In recent years, political movements and advocacy groups have reignited the discussion, arguing that public frustration with Congress's perceived inefficiency and partisanship underscores the need for reform. As we conclude, it's clear that the issue of term limits is complex, with valid arguments on both sides. The Founding Fathers trusted the American people to hold their representatives accountable through elections. Yet, they could not have foreseen the modern political landscape, where incumbency often provides significant advantages, such as name recognition and fundraising prowess. The question remains, should we adhere to the Founders' original reliance on electoral accountability, or is it time to reconsider their vision in light of contemporary challenges? Whatever the answer, the debate over term limits forces us to confront fundamental questions about democracy, representation, and the balance of power in our republic. Thank you for joining for this episode of 10-Minute Topics. I hope you have been inspired to think. Lack of education is the bane of any country. You can see the results of that around the world. Please share this channel with friends and family. No matter which side you are on, intelligent discourse is always the answer. Peace to you, my friends.